How's it going, guys? Welcome back to UpFix. I'm Ernest, and today in front of me we have Infiniti QX56 2004 to 2007 instrument cluster panel, and we're going to be showing you the before and after and what kind of issues this cluster typically has. So power loss, gauge issues, backlighting issues, intermittent power loss, battery drain, stuff like that. Hopefully we can show you here and you'll be able to see what's going on and the reason why they fail, so stay tuned. Alright, so as you can tell, the front instrument cluster plastic lens has a little bit of a tint to it, and that's normal. Once I fire it up, you can see that this amber lighting is prevalent throughout the entire instrument cluster. And some of the issues you might see, the reason why you might want to send it in for repair, is the LED lights are flickering, some are missing. This bottom LCD display, you might have the backlighting going in and out, or even pixels missing. Some of the gauges themselves could be not working, or they might not stop fluttering when they return back to zero, or they might not even go back to zero. They might stay at full or halfway stuck and just keep fluttering back and forth. That's usually an indication that there's a circuit board issue or that the stepper motor has to be replaced. Now you'll notice that there's two large gauges and then there's two small gauges here. All four are analog. So you have the temp, the tachometer, speedometer, fuel. Then here above the tachometer, you have the battery and the temperature of the transmission here, right at the top. And those don't have an analog, they have an LED indicator. So one of the issues with this instrument cluster is that the LED indicators start to fail and go out. So especially for the battery, you might notice that there's a little bit of a flickering going on, or that the LED lights for the indicators are completely out. That's also another issue. Now there's a pretty neat way to test this instrument cluster, the functionality, even without a scan tool. So the way you do it is, if you were in the vehicle before you unplug it, you would actually hold this trip button right here. And then as you're cycling and turning on the car, you don't have to turn it all the way, just go to stage 2 of the ignition, power it up, and then you'll have at the very bottom on the LCD readout different kinds of modes that you can test. And you can start cycling away and finding which ones you want to test. So this is a functional diagnostic lights test, shows all the bulbs and turn signals, any kind of telltale signs of the cruise control, check engine light, make sure all that's a good working order. I'm going to go to a few more menus, and there's one specifically for the gauges that I'm looking for, and it'll say gauge on it, and the moment it does, you just stop pressing, and that's the gauge. And as you can see, the fuel gauge is acting up and not returning down back to zero, and the tachometer is also failing, so it doesn't want to go past 500 RPM. And the fuel gauge is way out there, almost hitting the plastic lens on the outer rim of it. So we have two gauge issues out of the four. And then it looks like one of the indicator lights for the battery gauge indicator is also going out. So technically 3 gauges are having issues on this instrument cluster. And also the bottom LCD, some of the LED lights are out and it has a little bit of a pixelation issue going on. So hopefully you guys will be able to see the before and after. Right now we're actually going to power this off and start repairing it, and then you guys can see the difference. Stay tuned. So there you guys have it. We just repaired this instrument cluster. You will see a difference. Notice the fuel gauge is back down to 0, temp is going back down to 0, and I'm gonna go and do the test. Again, to do the test, you'll actually have to power it off. So if you're in a vehicle, you'd want to power off the vehicle and then go back to ignition cycle 2. So I'm going to power it off, hold this trip button, and then power back on. And you'll be able to enter the diagnostic self-test mode of the instrument cluster. There we have it. Keep going, pressing it until this is the bulb test. We're going to specifically be aiming for the gauge test. So it's testing all the pixels, all the backlights, and almost there. And there it is. You should see all the gauges cycle up all the way and then return back to 0. And notice that on the before, the battery gauge, the indicator lights for the digital gauge were flickering, the temp gauge was working but the tachometer was out, and also the fuel gauge was just pegged out beyond full. So these two gauges have been restored and the battery gauge as well. Everything's working. Some of the backlighting and dimming issues that were on the LCD, sometimes that's caused from cold solder joints, sometimes from bad surface mount LEDs. In this case, it was both. So once we fixed that, that came back to life, and that's the after. So it's ready to go back and be installed in the SUV. So there you have it, guys. This is the instrument cluster for the 2004 to 2007 Infiniti QX56. You saw the before, the after, what issues it's having, what issues were resolved. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a comment, subscribe. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and last but not least, forum.upfix.com. We'll see you next time.